If you're amazed by Vietnam's crazy rush hour traffic, think again in the morning. The Old Quarter, the heart of Hanoi, is the busiest place of the city, but also the quietest in the morning. If you can wake up early enough, you'll get to experience low time in one of Vietnam's most populated areas. And if you're Vietnamese, you'll be surprised because you'll think you're in another place.
The Old Quarter is so unique to Hanoi. It's the place where the first Hanoians settled, and it's also the place where people here are doing what they've been doing for the past few decades. And that's the reason why we chose the Old Quarter for this edition of Vietnam Discovery. And through the experience of a foreigner on the show, you're going to be able to see the things that you might have seen before if you've ever been to this place, to the Old Quarter, but you're also going to get a chance to see all the things that are hidden deep within the alleys of the Old Quarter. So why don't you stay tuned and we'll find out who is experiencing the experience today.
Matt Cavanaugh is a resident of Minnesota, the USA. You know, the place where it gets pretty cold in the winter. But that's not stopping him from traveling. And Vietnam is among the destinations that he picked for a unique experience, away from the cold, of course. His trip to Vietnam has lasted for over a year, and he's become a temporary resident of Hanoi.
So Matt, do you have anything that you would really want to do in the Old Quarter?
What I really want to do is get more in touch with the local people and how they go throughout their day and what they actually do, because you only see them sitting on the side of the street and selling their food, but how do they get their day going?
So Matt wants to discover more about the daily lifestyles of the people living in the Old Quarter. So we'll get to see what he has to experience and whether he gets to have what he really wants to see in the Old Quarter.
Our first stop of the Old Quarter is a friend's house of mine. His house is rested within an alleyway on Hàng Bông Street.
Em chào anh.
Chào em. Chào Matt.
Xin chào.
Anh ơi, đây là bạn em.
Rồi.
Matt, bạn này muốn tìm hiểu về cuộc sống phố cổ Hà Nội anh ạ.
Rồi, tôi mời hai người lên này.
Hi, my friend has been living in this house for centuries. It's something that Old Quarter dwellers have in common. They stay in the Old Quarter and remain there for generations.
So this looks pretty new in here. So he recently renovated the place?
Tất cả nó bằng gỗ và mưa nó rột nát. Thế đấy, anh mới cải tạo lại.
Thế ạ?
Đây, còn mỗi cái cửa sổ này là cũ lắm.
Thế ạ?
Mát ngày xưa.
Wow.
And a really nice view.
Very, very nice view.
Hanoi is so dense. I was really surprised at how dense it was. You have families living on top of families here.
When people think about good food in Hanoi, the Old Quarter first comes to mind. To Hanoians, pho is one of the most delicious breakfast foods. This pho restaurant has been around for over 40 years. It serves the richest broth and the most tender beef in the neighborhood.
That pho was probably the best pho that I've had since I've been in Hanoi for a year and a half. Down to the meat and the noodles and the broth, everything was just perfect.
After the breakfast, we started our tour. Looking from the front of the houses, we can see that most of the Old Quarter dwellers use their house as their business. There are shops next to stores. However, behind the shops and stores, the Old Quarter residents live in a collective community and they share their space with others.
It's like its own little community back behind the stores with people, they have their maybe a communal kitchen or a communal bathroom, 6 or 7 apartments with people living in there. So that was pretty interesting for me to be able to go back and explore and see that type of living.
We entered a small alley and walked along it until we reached a yard. I was quite surprised that there was a tree in there. The trunk was old and matched the surrounding walls. However, the young green leaves do make the scenery refreshing.
Xin chào.
Hai introduced us to the old lady, the owner of the house.
Nice to meet you.
She told us the story of the tree. It turned out to be a thing of memory.
Do là ông là họa sĩ, ông mới chặt một cái cành, thế là để lấy mẫu ông vẽ cái tranh này. Thế sau đó thì vẽ xong rồi là ông mới mang ra ông trồng ở ngoài. Thế là nó tự nhiên là nó mọc, cao lên như thế là mấy chục năm rồi đấy.
Within the house, there are several generations. This lady is the oldest. She is over 90 years old.
She's pretty cute. How many generations live in the house?
Có bao nhiêu thế hệ sống trong nhà hả bà?
4 thế hệ.
4 thế hệ là gồm những thế hệ gì ạ? There's 4 generations.
So that's her great grandchild.
Thì đây là chắc của bà.
Chắc.
Yeah, her great grandchild.
Wow.
Làm cỗ thế thì là tất cả các con cháu cùng tập trung, là cứ hàng tuần thì là cứ cuối tuần thì là con cháu thì là quây quần với cụ thiết ở đây.
The way families are here, it seems like they live with a few generations. Like they have grandparents and parents, and then their kids, and then maybe you have 4 generations sometimes all together. It's very different from where I'm from. It's like once you turn 18, your parents just kick you out of the house. You're like, all right, go to college and get out of our house. We want it to ourselves.
Any Vietnamese house must have an altar. The altar is situated high in the house. 2 houses in the Old Quarter, the altar can contain several generations.
So what's the importance of this red curtain here that they have?
Cái rèm đỏ này là khi mà rằm mùng 1 thì là vén lên để mà thắp hương các cụ. Thế còn ngày thường thì là buông xuống.
Do you think she would mind if I asked what she prays for instance, when she prays to the ancestors?
Good question.
Cầu khấn cho sức khỏe, rồi là hạnh phúc cho tất cả.
Let's pray for health and luck. Actually, I forgot to ask the lady how many times she moves her hands.
Lunch is one important meal of the day. This is when workers may return to their homes during their midday meals. The Old Quarter is different from other parts of Hanoi for its collective space. People cook in the alley, and Old Quarter residents grow up with the smell of their mother's cooking and their neighbors' food as well. We are off to another of Hai's friend's house. We also need to go through a long and dark alley to get to the house. Because the living space is so small, the kitchen is positioned outside in the alleyway.
Where are you from?
From America, Minnesota. Yeah. The best part of America.
Yes,
Minnesota.
I'm so glad to receive foreign guests to my very, very small house.
Well, I'm happy to be in your very, very small house. And there's still enough room to spread my legs, so that's all a person really needs in life.
Yes. Con trai cô ngủ ở đây và sinh hoạt dưới này. Thế còn cô thì sinh hoạt ở trên gác. Hai mẹ con cô ở có 9 mét vuông. Cái lòng nhà này 7 mét, còn bếp cái nhà tắm 2 mét.
People that live deep in the alleyways or back in the alley behind the shops seem to still enjoy their homes, even though they're kind of small and they live with a bunch of other people. Like Miss King's house, for example, she had it decorated and everything she needed in there, and she was very happy with it because it was her home.
I'm hungry now.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's high time to eat now.
Yeah.
Miss King
very high
is a junior high school teacher, but I think she should work as a cook too.
Wow.
She served us tasty food on a metal tray.
I go to the market every day.
Every day?
Yes, every morning, and I can find fresh eggs, fresh meat, fresh vegetable, and I like vegetable much.
So why have you decided to stay in such a small house?
Although it is very small, because my school, my church, and my grandmother's house, mother-in-law's house is very, very near here.
My first meal ever in an old quarter house. It was fun, although I cannot imagine living in such a small house. I think I now understand the feeling the residents have towards the place.
Now that we've seen what there is inside the alleyway, Hai decided to show us what we don't know about what's on the streets outside the alleyway. The Old Quarter contains 36 streets. These were the first streets of Hanoi. The name of each street came about because of the type of goods sold there. Now the names still remain, but some of the goods have changed. However, a few streets still retain their goods of trade, like the one we are at. Antique Street sells metal items. Another thing about the Old Quarter is that people literally live on the streets, and animals do so too.
Nah, she likes it.
Okay,
Here, you can have the fleas.
give it back to you. Old Quarter cat.
You guys smell that?
Yeah. Cái mùi này là mùi của cái gì đấy ạ? Chắc là không phải mùi của gia vị đúng không ạ?
Cái mùi mà em ngửi là cái mùi do từ những cái vị thuốc nó tỏa ra đấy.
The street sells traditional medicine. It is among a few streets where the old trade remains and even thrives.
So I see them, they're making a few concoctions here. Do they take them separately or do they mix them all together?
Basically, the person will probably will have to mix them all together. That's the way traditional medicine was work. You have to boil it and you drink the water.
You drink, so it's like a tea type of,
Yeah.
There's a lot of nice trees on this street. You don't see, I like these overhanging trees where the sun doesn't come in as much and you get some shade.
Đấy, cứ để cho mát đi ngắm lên phố đi.
I was overwhelmed by the amount of things that I could photograph. From flags to food to temples, it's like Vietnam concentrated in a small area. All that picture taking has caused me to lose track of my two Vietnamese guides.
Hello?
Hello,
Okay, Matt. Me and Hai are going to be at Hàng Vai Street, okay? Hàng Vai.
all right, I'll do my best. Yeah, hopefully see you soon.
I had a lot of trouble finding Hang Vai.
Hey, Tang.
I asked around and people showed me a different street, Hang Vai.
While Hai and I wait for Matt, we will have some sugar cane.
That's it.
I finally managed to find where Phoebe and Hai were.
Mắc kia.
Well, you guys a sight for sore eyes.
Phượng. Bác Phượng là người mà
Little could I have imagined that a hairdresser existed inside the alleyway. I never would have entered the alleyway myself to see what businesses lied within the small opening to the street.
This place is only 5 meters long and 2 meters wide, but it can accommodate 5 customers at once. The most loyal customer has been coming here for 40 years.
Bác có phải là khách hàng lâu năm nhất không ạ?
Mình có hơn 40 năm rồi, 42 năm thôi. Chứ còn đến đâu có người còn hơn mình.
You would have thought 40 years would have
Was
taken
long,
it, but
right?
no.
Làm từ năm 82, 83 bán làm cái bán tóc này nó hợp với lại tôi thì là tôi cứ làm.
That's just something that you don't really see a whole lot in the States because people move around or they go to a different neighborhood or a different barbershop opens. And like myself, I once had a barber for maybe 6 months. Ready for... I was surprised to have my head massaged as I got a hair wash. It's surely an abundant service in a not so abundant space.
Doesn't take any more instructions.
Matt has seen people living and working in and out of the alleys, but he hasn't seen people eating in the Old Quarter. If you talk about local street foods, the Old Quarter is Hanoi's haven for affordable and local treats. Food is not made elsewhere and transported here. It's made within the quarter, and a lot of the times inside the alleyways. The man that we are meeting with next is a food maker known to all Old Quarter residents.
Tôi là Nguyễn Quang Hào, năm nay là 60 tuổi rồi, sống ở ngõ huyện. Tôi thì trước kia là một người lái xe, sau năm 90 thì chuyển sang làm nghề truyền thống là nghề tàu phớ gia đình. Dân phố cổ này thì họ rất tinh tế, rất kén chọn trong các món ăn. Người ta yêu cầu cái này rất cao. Thứ nhất là vệ sinh là một, thứ hai là tàu phớ nào phải ngon, mịn.
The soybean curd seller uses his bike to bring tau pho to all corners of the quarter. This is the fastest way to get your product to street-living Old Quarter residents. Tau pho bean curd has been my favorite childhood treat for years. I'm going to share this treat with Matt. Tau pho in the bucket is a thick cylindrical curd. The curd needs to be scooped out thinly into the bowls. The flour-flavored sugar water is then added.
What do you think it'll taste like?
Maybe a little bit like tofu,
A little bit like tofu.
I would think. This is the best stuff you will ever eat off the street. Go on.
Why is it none?
It's just like 3 or 4 different flavors coming together to make one excellent flavor.
Bác ơi, thế giờ bạn cháu muốn bán thử tàu phớ này của bác được không ạ?
Bán được, nhưng mà hết hàng thì quay lại đây.
Vâng. I want to give Matt a chance to sell tau pho. He's seen people work, live, and eat, and he's even tried eating. But what's a better way to feel the Old Quarter soul than to try working like an Old Quarter resident? But first, he needs the golden phrase.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, let's go sell some bao pho.
Anh với em bây giờ sẽ
rồi để mang thử đi.
Bao pho. Bao pho. Want any bao pho? Bao pho.
As I took off, people were already staring at me. They have probably never seen a white guy selling such local foods before. But I'm just going to focus on the job, to sell as much of the bean curd as I can.
It was very strange for people to see me driving around with the dao pho. People would just be laughing and pointing at me, and which was okay. You don't see a foreigner driving around trying to sell dao pho every day. Baba!
Selling is already a difficult task. I've cycled for 20 minutes and haven't sold any bowls yet. Finally, I got my first customer. However, I could not figure out how the kickstand worked.
How does he do that? It doesn't stay anywhere. Here. Over here? Oh.
Now I can understand why the dao pho salesman did not ride the bike, but walked with the bike. If you move too fast, people will not recognize you and you may lose potential customers.
I'll give it to you for $5,000. And your cool shirt. Come quasi. Baba! You want Baba?
Oh, I've met a competitor.
Do you want to team up and corner the market? I can take this street, you can take the next one. We'll split profits. I wanted to try to make a little competition out of it, but he didn't seem to want to, because that's the way he makes his living. So if I were to take away some of his customers, then he wouldn't make as much money. So I understood that he just wanted to get to a different street, because there's plenty of streets to go to where we don't have to run into each other. Oh. Beep beep. Scusi.
It's been a tough afternoon, physically and mentally. But I'm glad I managed to bring back some profits to my dao pho seller buddy.
Up with, of course.
Hello.
Thank you for the opportunity to be a dao pho salesman.
As night approaches on the Old Quarter, the streets are getting busy from rush hour. Hai invited us up to his house to give Matt an Old Quarter present. Both Matt and I are excited to know what the present is.
What is this?
Đây là cái gì ạ?
Cái mà chúng ta sẽ làm khuôn để in vào áo để tặng cho mẹ.
In order to get my present, I have to work. It's great because working and enjoying it truly is what I feel to be the Old Quarter spirit.
Hai's family has been producing silkscreen shirts for years. What Matt is working with is a silkscreen. On top of the screen is a decal cut out in the shape of the print.
The special fabric ink will be applied twice so that the print is crisp and clear. I might be slow, but I'm pretty comfortable with the job. The message on the two t-shirts tells what I have been doing throughout the day. Eating pho and exploring the Old Quarter. You can find these shirts as souvenirs on the streets, but mine are special, I think.
Voila! Đã xong rồi ạ.
Guess I'm going to blow the ink dry. Just kidding. The ink dries in a few minutes.
Are you gonna do that forever, Matt? Let's compare. All right, Matt, how do you feel?
I feel very fulfilled, and we got to do a lot of things today that I haven't had the opportunity to experience before.
So are you now ready to go back to your country and sadly leave Vietnam?
I am ready to go back, but at the same time, I don't think I'll ever be ready to leave Vietnam. It'll always have a special place right here.
In your heart. All right, thank you so much, Matt. I wish
Thanks for
you all the
having me.
best.
Tạm biệt.
Bye. Now that you've seen Matt's experience of the Old Quarter, you might be wondering, why are we having a foreigner on the show? It's actually to show you the different aspects, to let you experience yourself back on the screen, to experience all the aspects about Vietnam that you may or may not already know, but we want to show you different aspects. And just to let you know, we have episode 2 of the Old Quarter, where we will let you know about the new things, how the Old Quarter is just like a human being. It's morphed and it's changing every day. So stay tuned.